everyone. I hope everyone's having a really good day. And today we are going to be building another Raptoreum mining rig. Um, we got ourselves another Ryzen 3900X. We're going to be using Trident Neo, G-Skill, DDR14, CL16 RAM. That's 3600. We have got our RAKU B550 gaming motherboard, the Gundam edition. And we're going to try something a little different with our power supply. We went bottom of the barrel. Now, I want everybody to remember this power supply is only powering the motherboard. That's it. Um, so there is no need for a high-end power supply when all you're powering is the motherboard and the processor. Kind of wouldn't recommend with the Ryzen 9. Going below 500, you probably can. Um, this is the bottom of the barrel, though. We found these for 18 bucks, brand new on Amazon. The motherboard was the old Newegg You Got Bundled special, which we'll have another video coming up because we got ourselves an unboxing we're going to do with what got bundled with this. So what we're doing is we're going to be building another Raptoreum Ethereum dual mining rig. Okay, so we're going to be mining Raptoreum with the CPU, and we're going to be mining Ethereum with the GPUs. If you come over here, in a previous video, you'll see where I wanted to get rid of my RebTech motherboard. And we are now on, we've got 3 rigs. And so far on the 3 rigs, we've got 2 of them that are dual mining, meaning the CPUs mining Raptoreum and then the GPUs are mining Ethereum. There has been 0 decline in hash rate on either or. So I can say in our last video that we did, and I'll show you over here, here's our ASUS B550. It has, with the 5950X, now on that one we got an AIO radiator cooler. These are all the 6600 XTs, all 8 of them, and they have been mining flawlessly. It's been about a week and a half, so this is the update on those. I've had a couple people ask me, what kind of power supplies are you using? These are the HP server power supplies. On this rig right here we got up top, that's 1,000-watt power server supply that's running all 8 of these. Now I can say you could probably get away, because these things are so low voltage, you could probably get away with a 750-watt power server supply. If I need another, the problem is I've got a lot of 750-watt power supplies. I've only got like 4, maybe 5 of the thousands. So eventually when I run those out, if I have to, I'll run 2 750s if I have to. But this is what we're going to be replacing. Here's our RebTech. There's our crazy 5700 XT. I'm going to be pulling this out, replacing this fan. This will be the second time that I've done this, and one of my subscribers had messaged me and mentioned that because this thing always runs hot, and not because of that fan, maybe trying the washer trick on the back. We're adding a little bit of washers in the screw where everything screws together, which we're going to do a video together and see if we can do that together in a video. But that's where this new motherboard's going to go, and hopefully everything works as I have it planned. The only problem that I see versus the 6600 XTs is we got a mix of cards here. We've got 2 480 8 gigabytes, got 570s, we've got 2 5700 XTs, and I think there's 2 580s back there on this. So That's the only thing that I could see maybe causing us a problem with some drivers, maybe. But hopefully, since it's going to be on Hive OS, I don't think that it's going to matter. I do have another Raptoreum mining rig down here. This is our 3300X. It's been going for months, no problems. It's got a 3070 Ti on it, a 3090, a 3080, a 37 non-LHR, and a 1060. I do plan on finishing out this rig. I think I need uh, 2 more cards. I want to try to keep these all NVIDIA cards, or all NVIDIA GPUs on this rig here. I kind of don't like to try to mix them if I can, but if I have to, I will. Um, and I have everything mining Ethereum. Some people are, because they're LHR cards, they're mining other things on them to try to get the full hash rate. Right now, I feel like Ethereum's the hot spot, and I'm keeping it there. It's the easiest as far as exchanges go. You know, by the time you pay the exchange rates on some of these other lesser known coins, I feel like you're back at Ethereum prices anyways, or what you would have missed in that hash rate. So, but that's just my opinion. Some people's results may be completely different. But I'm going after what's the most value. I will continue to mine only Ethereum. And that reminds me, while we pull that 5700 XT out as I build this rig, I'm pulling it out so that we can do a video on a repair job on it. And I will be putting this bad dude in there in its place. And this is the 6800 XT. Kind of looking forward to this thing. This thing's almost brand new. I got a deal on this one. Somebody wanted to sell it. It's almost new, and I got a really good deal. So to me, it was worth buying. And then we're going to do an unboxing of another card as soon as I get a chance and I figure out a place to put it, because I'm trying to keep this rig with just 8 GPUs. I may, for fun, if everybody wants to see it, we'll try adding a 9 GPUs on there. I'm pretty sure it's possible. And it might be worth giving it a shot just for the fun of it. See if we can make it happen. I believe you could possibly get 10 or 11, but we may go ahead and give it a try. We've got the stuff to do it with. So, all right, well, I'm going to get over here and I'm going to get all this stuff unboxed. We'll get it set up on our bench over here, and then I'll start recording the part where we put it together. I'll see you in a few minutes. Dude, this thing's one sick looking motherboard. Sharp. Very sharp. I liked the size of this board. And it had just enough and not too much. That's the way I like them for these builds. If you've got a fancy motherboard, by all means, you can still use it. I just like them stripped back a little bit. This one did come with Wi-Fi 6, actually, and quite a bit of ports. I'd be curious to find out. We'll find out here soon, but it'd be nice to find one with onboard graphics. Here's our Ryzen 9 3900X. Alright guys, we had a little bit of a audio problem there, so we're going to do a little voiceover. Here we are, we're opening up got the 3900X. Pretty much from here, it's just going to be me opening boxes and putting them over to the workbench. There's the stock Prism Wraith cooler. It does come with its own
thermal paste on the bottom of it, but I recommend not using it. I mean, if it's all you have, use it. But I cleaned it off and I used the Cryonaut Thermal Grizzly. Here we have our 500 watt power supply. Now, like I said, guys, this is the bottom of the barrel. Again, all you're going to be using this for is simply just to power the motherboard and the CPU. This power supply is so cheap it don't even have a PCIe to hook up to a graphics card. So if you're going to be running graphics cards off of your power supply, this is not the power supply for you. Very, very cheap. But we're going to give it a shot, see how it works. If it lasts a year, it lasts a year. We had some better power supplies that I could have used, but I'm trying to save those for another project. And the cables on this thing are just atrocious, by the way, but it does work. So we'll give it a shot, see what happens with it. If it poofs, it poofs. I do have something similar to this that came out of a pre-built that's powering the 5950X that we have, and so far no problems with it. It's been pretty steady. So, and I think that one is maybe a 450 watt power supply. So far so good.
There's a little gold spot on it right there. That's got to line up with this spot on the motherboard. And you'll feel it set in there. Don't force it. And you really shouldn't wiggle it back and forth at all. But you'll feel it drop in there. And then once it drops in, you take your handle, close it down, and lock it into place. Okay. And then we're going to take some of our thermal knot, thermal grizzly. This stuff's pretty good. And I love this applicator. It allows you to spread it around. Nice even coat. And again, this is the big tube. I believe this stuff's like 40 or 50 bucks for the big tube, but if you use a lot, you're going to be taking apart GPUs and cleaning them and repasting them. Highly recommend just going big. And this stuff right here, I normally wear gloves when I mess with this stuff because this stuff is messy. Messy, messy, messy. And it don't come off very easily. So now we've got our CPU cooler. I'll set this right here for a second. Guess we want our pretty lights, right? That's good for another kill hash. I'm positive of it. You get more with lights, so they say. So they give you two different cables in these. One's for USB, and the other one's for the what the hell is it called? If you look right here on the side, there's a plug. Pull this plug out, and right there, that's where you plug your cable in for your lights. I'm going to be using, well, let's make sure the motherboard has it real quick. Right here. Okay, so you take pull this camera back just a little bit. So definitely make sure it's locked in there. All right, now this is a slick little motherboard. And you know what? I'm thinking you can use either or of these for the lights. I believe. Let me grab my magnifying glass here because my eyes are starting to get bad. This writing seems to be getting smaller and smaller. My eyes are getting old. Let's put it that way. All right, let's take a peek down here and just double check what this one says. Okay, yep, that's our RGB right there. So we won't use the USB one. We're going to use the RGB. And you'll see you got your 4 pins right there. And then the other plug, we're going to pop back out of there because we don't need it. Gonna fight me, huh? There we go. So that's that one. And then this one we're going to pop back out. We don't need this one. That's for if you don't have the RGB. You can use, like I said, USB. All right. So then right here is our fan cable. And on this board, Let's see if we can locate which one's our fan. Okay, so CPU fan is right here, this gray one, at least on this board. May be different in a different location on a different board, which they usually are. So there's our CPU fan. And then we're going to put our RAM in. We're going to want to go in the light gray slots. You want to make sure your RAM's turned the right way, where this slot lines up with this slot. Because you can try to put them in like this, and you'll notice that the slot is not lined up with the slot in the memory channel. Push them in until they click. All right, now here's our power cable from our power supply. Okay, we got that. This is for our hard drive. Grab a SATA cable. Now you can use M.2s on these. I prefer not to, because sometimes you may need to take up that lane. I find what works best is your Micro Center Specials. Right here, SSDs, 128. You can use 120, you can use 64. But I've got HiveOS preloaded on this one. If you need to, there is tons of videos on how to get HiveOS loaded on a SSD or a hard drive or a USB drive. But I recommend these cheap SSDs. These are like 18 bucks, 19 bucks at Micro Center. So I go in, and when I buy them, I buy like 4 or 5 of them at a time. Keep them handy. So we're going to want to plug one part of our SATA cable. And these only go in one way. In that side. And then one part, or one of our cables off of our power supply. Into there just like that. Then this plugs into one of the SATA ports on the motherboard. Now I do want to look. You're usually better off if you're going to be using multiple GPUs on these boards, like I'm going to do with the PCIe splitters. You're better off usually going into port 1 or port 2, because usually what happens, 3 and 4, or if it's got 5 and 6 SATA ports, sometimes they share PCIe lanes. So you don't want to be on any of these. Now, on that B550, that AORS that we did in our last video, the last 2 or the last 3 shared a PCIe lane. So don't put them in those last ones, because you'll end up with problems. Tried it, done it, tested it, and absolutely you will end up with problems. Okay. So where are we at now? Here, let's plug in our super duper hot pink Cat 5 cable. That right there, that's good for a few hashes itself, just because it's hot pink. I will try to boot this thing up without a GPU on it. I might have to put one on it, but we're going to try it because every now and then some of these motherboards, they'll have some. I didn't even look to see if this motherboard has any type of onboard graphics, but we'll see if it'll boot up and give us anything. But sometimes they have enough just to get you booted up into. I mean, you're not getting anything that's spectacular, that's for sure, when it comes to onboard graphics. But if we can just get in the BIOS, that would be awesome. Which brings me to another question. I have not checked to see whether this motherboard is going to need a BIOS update. So I'm going to go check that out. And, well, I guess what I'll do is I'll see what BIOS it has in it first. And then we'll check and see if it needs a BIOS update. We'll plug in our keyboard. And I do see this motherboard has BIOS flashback, so that's cool. So we got ourselves a little power switch here. Usually, let me grab my little magnifying glass. So we got our power switch. Plugs right into there. All right. Are we ready, guys? 3, 2, 1. No. 3, 2, 1. No. All right. We got our power switch to plug in. There she goes. Here's our 3, 2, 1. So it appears that our cheap power supply has booted this bad dude up. However, I hate the wires on these things. So lessons, don't forget to plug in your CPU power. 2, don't forget you actually have to power the thing on with the power switch. And if you, on here on this motherboard, if you look over there, I had to take a magnifying glass because it's too small for my eyes. There's 2 little pins that say power button. You plug that into that 2-pin thing and you're off and going. I want to get these wires because I won't like this when it goes up there in the rack. Get these bad dudes squared away, which I guess we could do off camera, but I do want to get, and they got those rubber bands like a maze through here. It's insane. All right, we won't screw with that right now. We'll take care of that off camera, but all right, so it is running. Now, I'm going to step over here to the monitor real quick and just see if this thing actually happened to have any of its own onboard graphics, which I'm not very, I don't have a lot of confidence in that. So what we're going to do is shut it down real quick, and we're going to hit the delete button to get into the BIOS as it boots up. Because I got a feeling that bad dude booted straight into Hive. Okay, so as I figured, no onboard graphics. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set in. Let's turn this thing off. Move our wire out of the way. Now, just real quick before I put this GPU in here, I wanted to show you guys how we're going to get 8, that's right, 8 GPUs off of this. We're going to plug one PCIe splitter here, and we're going to plug in, if you notice.
And again, guys, we had some audio problems here, but that's your 4-into-1 PCIe splitter. We're going to put one in each slot there. You're going to want to use the big slots. And that should turn those into 8x8 like we did in the BIOS. There's our M.2 slot. I do have an adapter to put into the M.2 slot and actually run a GPU off that. If we go shoot for that 9th GPU, that's what we're going to have to do in order to make that happen. It's possible we could use that 1x slot, but I'm not hopeful. Maybe. We'll try it. I don't want to use the adapter if I don't have to. The less amount of adapters, the better. One bonehead thing I did here in the video was I forgot to plug in the CPU power. So you're going to see it like mysteriously plugged in here. What had happened is I lost some audio and some video. But I went to go turn it on and I'm like, what in the heck? Why isn't this thing turning on? Just one of those bonehead moves, so always make sure that you're not only you have your 24 pin plugged in for the motherboard, but that you also have the CPU power plugged in also as well. On this power supply, what I'm doing here to power that GPU, because it doesn't have a PCIe connector, I'm actually using a SATA adapter. That is a do not. This is just for, I'm not going to be mining anything. I'm not going to be running that GPU at full power or anything. So whatever you do, don't use PCIe or PCI adapters to power a GPU. They just don't have enough power to do that. You may get it to run, but for how long is going to be the question. And you could end up with some melting and burning and all that stuff. Also, do not use Molex. If you're powering something that's like really low powered or something like that, maybe. But I don't recommend it for any of these
not
new
recommended.
Graphics cards that
I'm doing it only
that
because
draw too much power.
this thing's not going to draw
Definitely
that
not
much power.
recommended. But like I said,
It's just
don't
not.
do it. If you're doing it just for some testing and you're there with it, yeah, you could do it
And it's
temporarily,
just
but I
for
wouldn't
testing
do it
purposes.
while you're mining.
I'm not going to leave
on
this
a
thing
GPU.
running or anything
I
like
think
that.
that thing is idling at, we're actually mining with it now.
Never power
The
GPUs
CPU, but the GPUs.
through SATA cables or Molex. All right, let's fire this bad dude back up. We'll see if I get video on the screen, and then we'll take you guys over there. Okay. She's booted up into the BIOS. Press F1 to run setup. Yeah, see how goofy that GPU's acting. That's the one we did the work on. And boy, is it acting goofy. Boy, that is a cool looking BIOS. Alright, well, I'm going to try to power through this the way it's setting. I don't like it, but I want to see what BIOS version we have. So that's what it looks like when your GPU is dying. Boy, is it dying. So we're going to hit F7 and we're going to go to advanced mode. Scroll up here. BIOS version 2.2.21. Alright, guys. I'm going to go look up this BIOS and see if we need to do a BIOS update, which is possible. Very possible. Alrighty, guys. We are back and we are into the BIOS. I did go ahead and update the BIOS. And basically all you do is you go to the motherboard's manufacturer's website, you put in your model number, you download the flash file, and you go into the BIOS. Then different motherboards are different. Maybe I can get a chance here and I can show you guys where you go to do that. You're going to insert that USB drive into the motherboard, and you're going to boot up. You're going to go into whatever software, and I'll show you the software here in a second. Let's go over a couple of settings that we need to have set up in our motherboard. So I'm over here on the boot tab on the ASUS, and this is probably going to be the same for a lot of ASUS motherboards. Now, the one thing that I don't like about ASUS motherboards is there is a ton of settings. Now, if you like to play, this bad dude is for you, okay? But not really my thing. So next boot after AC power loss. This is important, guys. So if you have a power outage, okay, power goes out, your miner shuts down, power comes back on, it won't automatically restart. Let's go over here to advanced. So there's our CPU. We got the Ryzen 9. You don't really need to do anything in here. SATA configuration. Don't really need to do anything in here. Just make sure that your SATA port's enabled because that's what we're using for our SSD hard drive. Now this one is important, the onboard devices configuration. I shut off. I always disable the audio controller, don't need it. There's the PCIe X16 mode. You always want this on generation 2. M.2 link mode. This one's not really important, but I set it to generation 2 just in case I go to try to shoot for that 9th GPU because we're actually going to use the M.2 slot. I have an adapter that will allow us to actually hook a GPU into there. SB link mode, generation 2. PCIe X16 2 mode, you want that to generation 2, set all these to generation 2. In very rare cases, I've had a couple of motherboards where I've had to change these to generation 1, so if you start experiencing some problems, I would highly recommend that maybe you try generation 1. Gen 2. Now, this bandwidth by purification configuration, you're going to want this on 8x8 mode. So what it's going to do is it's going to take those 216s, turn them 2x8s. This right here, the switch, we are going to leave on auto. Now that may or may not cause us any problems. If it does, we'll go in here and change it. But it'll tell you right here, it says if PCIe device is inserted into PCIe X1, switch PCIe 16.2 to 2x2 mode. Else, if no device is inserted to PCIe X1, switch PCIe X2 to to 4x mode. We're going to leave this on auto. System is working in state, all on. System is in sleep. Yeah, why not? Okay, so we do need your LAN controller. That is your Ethernet. This motherboard does have Wi-Fi. However, I'm not going to use it. I don't use Wi-Fi on any of my rigs. Well, I take that back. The one gaming PC that I have, that one is on Wi-Fi for the moment anyways. But Wi-Fi disabled, Bluetooth disabled. I mean, and all you're really doing by having those on is you're just simply wasting power. Serial port configuration, I would leave this alone. Let me see. I'm just kind of curious what it's got in here. It just says enabled, disabled, doesn't matter. Not that big of a deal. It's probably for the PS2, but let's get out of there. Let's go back. APM configuration. We don't need to do anything on here, I don't think. Power on by PCI. Nope, nothing in here. PCI subsystem settings. This one's important. And this is one that a lot of people miss. Above 4G decoding. Now, on some old motherboards, you're not going to have this option. You want this enabled. Oops, we just disabled it. Resize bar support, don't worry about it. SRIOV, you ain't got to mess with that. USB configuration, no messing with that. Smart drive information, NVMe configuration, nothing there. You do want to turn on, you're going to go in here and you're going to get a little warning for the AMD overclocking, except of course it's not going to let us out here. This, so on our, let's go over here to the AI tweaker. I'm going to do 4,000. I'm doing per CCX. Okay. Where did we go here? Down here. Normally I do an offset on these ASUS motherboards, but I'm going to try a manual. I switched this to manual, changed the SoC voltage override to 1.1. Now you can run these at 1 volt sometimes, but I'm going to go 1.1 because we're going to be putting some juice to it. We're going to be using a lot of power out of the slots. So we'll try that. I know that it only supplies power to the CPU, but I'm leaving everything else here to auto. Auto, auto, auto. On our RAM, we did change DLCP. We are going to run the RAM at 3600 and our F clock at 1800. Something I want to play with. So that's it on that. And that is pretty much your settings on this bad dude. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the ASUS BIOS motherboards. I'm a big fan of the motherboards. They're really good motherboards. No, but like some of your MSIs and your ASRoCs and those, they have a much easier navigation, I guess you could say. Um, it makes things pretty simple and just takes out a bunch of the other stuff that a lot of people, including myself, probably have no business playing in. Um, let's see here. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else I want to change. There's my yeah, and I got to pull that out. I have a USB drive in there right now with the BIOS after I flash the BIOS. And here is where you flash the BIOS. You click on here under Tools. You want to go under Tools. You want to go to the ASUS Easy Flash utility. And it brought up, right there's my, you click on this and then it'll ask you if you're sure and you tell it yes. And we have to get escape to get back out of here. With this, I'm pretty sure is it. I'm going to take a peek right here, back to our main page. Don't see nothing there I want to change. Nothing in advanced. Let's look under monitoring here. One more time under boot. Check our boot configuration. That all looks good. Don't need nothing in here. Okay. I think I'm happy. We're going to hit exit. We're going to save change. We're going to hit F10 on our keyboard. We'll just make it easier. We got a whole bunch going on there. And you'll find out pretty quick if everything you just did was for naught. If it doesn't boot, then you need to go back into your BIOS and change your settings. Remember, you can always load the default. All right, guys, we booted it up. And we are booted into Hive OS. And she is mining. We have got it right here. You can see that's our 3900X. Here's our current hash rate is 4.831 kilohash right this moment. That changes a lot with this algorithm. Our temperatures seem to be in check. We're at 64 degrees. A lot of that comes from that undervolting, guys, that 1.1 volt. That's your secret sauce to getting these temperatures down. We are going to check over at the pool. We are on the 011 data pool. And let's see. Well, let's get all that out of here. Are we up there yet? There she is, the 3900X. Now it's just getting started, so we're not going to see any crazy hash rate out of it yet. It'll start to adjust, but there it is. That 5900X, what we did is I'm using the hard drive from the 5950X that I was messing with before. So it popped on there real quick as the 5950X until I changed the name. There's our Giganto rig. That's our 5950X with our 8 6600 XTs. Now somebody just asked me on my comments, don't you need at least, there's my 5900X and my workstation, that is also a 3900X. Now that one I had my overclocks through Ryzen Master, it's on Windows, had disappeared, so I had to go reset them and restart the miner. But somebody had asked me how many threads you need that you need all these threads, or at least 2 threads for Ethereum mining, and that's just not true. Um, this Giganto rig, here we are. Now, what it does, and you'll notice this one right here, this thread is unavailable, and it switches back and forth. That thread will actually come back into play. So whatever information that it's needing for Ethereum, it's taking it whenever it needs it. So it's still average. If you look back over to the pool, Giganto, it's still averaging 4.13. So I'm not losing any hash rate over doing exactly what I'm doing. If anything, it may take a tiny bit away, but the power savings is way worth it than running Raptoreum rigs all by themselves. You're doing it all in one spot. Everything's getting sent through in one rig, and to me, it just makes way more sense. I'll keep it this way, and this is the way I'll continue to mine. I see a lot of the other big miners are kind of starting to come to the same light that I came to. That you don't need mining motherboards. You just don't need them. They're a giant waste of money. They're way overpriced, and most of them are garbage. They're old, outdated, and you're buying technology that was made 5, 10 years ago. Doesn't make any sense. Here we're all here to make money, and when you can get a good gaming motherboard that can pull off the same stuff as a mining motherboard with a couple of $20 splitters, and you should absolutely climb all over the chance to do that. Um, because here's the thing, let's say next month or when Ethereum goes away, you decide you want to get out of mining because profitability drops or whatever. Well, you can now take those CPUs that you have with those motherboards that you already have, go buy some 30 to $75 cases, slap them in some cases, and start selling gaming PCs. Just makes a whole lot more sense. Mining motherboards, well, if everybody's getting out of mining, I'm pretty sure that your mining motherboards are going to be pretty useless. They're going to be cheap. You're going to see those things when Ethereum goes away. I believe you're going to see those things in the dumpster. Um, we'll see. Could be wrong, but I'll take my chances with a higher quality board, better technology, and something that I can actually sell to a broader audience than having those motherboards. So, like I said, some of the big dogs in this industry are starting to come around to my way of thinking, or people who think this way, because it just makes more sense from a financial standpoint, to a logical standpoint. This is the way to go about it. But let's get back over to our 3900X real quick. Let's make sure she's still mining. Temperatures are coming down. We're now down to 62 degrees. And let's come over to the other monitor here. And there she is. Looking good, looking good. That's what I like to see. Let's go back over to the pool here. Let's take another peek. Let's do a refresh. And there she is. She's up to 2.03 kilohash right this moment. And she'll continually steadily climb over the next 24 to 48 hours. Usually in 24 hours, you get a good baseline of about where you're at. Um, the NVIDIA rig there, that was the 3300X that we built. As you can see, it's moved up 1.20 on a 3300X that I paid $70 for. It already paid for itself. It paid for itself big time. And Raptoreum's killing it right now. I mean, killing it. It's actually more profitable than some GPUs out there right now. In fact, it's more profitable than some of my GPUs. So I'm going to keep rolling like this. We're at 12.91 kilohash. We'll probably be at 14, 13, 14 by morning. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry I didn't. I wanted to get one out earlier this week, but crazy things happening out there right now. So um, I will be putting this together. I'm trying not to make this video too long. So in my next video, I'm going to be putting this together, and we're going to be adding those GPUs to this motherboard. So we will see you guys soon. And as soon as we get them plugged in and ready to go, we'll be back on camera. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. If there's anything in the comments that you'd like to see, any suggestions, by all means, tell me. I'm more than willing to give it a shot. You guys have a really good night.